Hey everybody, this is my thoughts on Corp DX. This is a business management game, or a tycoon game if you prefer to call them that was developed by Endless Loop Studios and released out of early access on October 2nd, 2015, although it did see a period of early access before that. Now honestly, like most early access games, I didn't really pay too much attention to it, and I actually didn't even notice when it came out of early access until the developers sent me an email and were like, hey, would you like to take a look at our game? So thanks to the developers for providing me a review copy to take a look at. But let's go ahead and delve right into this thing and cut to the chase, because honestly I don't really have all that much to say about Corp DX. As far as visuals go, it's pretty bright and colorful, although it's extremely bare bones as well. This looks like basically a mobile or a flash game. It's all bare bones 2D sprite work, and it's really not appealing to the eye at all. I mean, the artwork itself is pretty clean, and it's easy to work with the interface and everything like that, but at the same time, I mean, just look at it. It looks kind of amateurish, in fact. And I actually came to find out later on that this actually is an updated version of a Flash game. So, at least that explains why it both looks and sounds like a Flash game. I mean, the sound design is extremely minimal and just functional more than anything else. In fact, the music seems like the kind of stuff you would find in a generic YouTube video, which is kind of depressing because that kind of music actually gets really annoying. Of course, there's no voice acting in this thing unless you count the noise that it makes whenever the announcer for the Game Awards thing pops up. So there's really not much to this game in terms of its presentation. It's rather bare bones, it's more function than anything else. And that doesn't really help it out in the long run. It doesn't really have a lot of charm, and it ends up feeling like something that was kind of an amateur project. So it ultimately falls to story and gameplay to salvage this thing, and the story in this is quite literally you run a game company and that is it. You're trying to strive for the best you can possibly get. So with effectively nothing in terms of plot to go on, it really does fall to the gameplay to bring things up, and that's where the game really falls apart. You see, this is a sort of tycoon style game in which you do build up your office, and you do actually get a chance to put various decorations as well as expand the size of the office itself, place the workstations and such like that, and then you of course hire your personnel in order to be able to actually develop games, and once you're ready, you actually start to develop games. You initiate the project, you select its genre, you select who's working on it, what the size of the project is, and you name the project, and that's pretty much it. From there on, it's just waiting until it's finished. Obviously, the more experience your team has and the more tools they have available at their disposal, the better the game's going to be. The game's quality is assessed with a star rating, and obviously, the higher the star rating, the better. Now, as I mentioned before, the better the team is and the more stuff they have at their disposal, the higher the star rating is going to be. And you can set up training cubicles to where your staff members can go and train in a specific tool and specialize in a specific thing. More specifically, they can specialize in whatever skill set they have actually maxed out. There are 4 skills, which are code, art, sound, and writing. And if they have maxed out one of those, they can specialize in it and get access to the more advanced tools, which will of course allow them to create better quality games. As you progress through the game, you're going to be going through various office locations, and you will actually unlock the new tiers of those particular tools with the new office locations, as well as more space to actually expand your office. And while there are certainly a few annoyances with how the game actually functions, for example, you can't have a sort of line tool for your various walls, so you end up having to place walls each block at a time, and that just is really, really time consuming. Same thing goes with literally any other thing when you're in the build mode. It doesn't have a line tool, so you have to place every single thing individually, and that just gets rather tiresome rather quickly. That's just an annoyance, it's not the game breaker. The actual game breaker is that this game has absolutely no depth to it whatsoever. You start a project, you pick whatever genre is popular at that particular time, and it outright tells you which genres are the most popular at any given time, and you pick your best guys to work on it, and as you expand your office size and expand your staff size, you can of course create bigger and bigger games with bigger and bigger marketing campaigns, and you will just rake in tons and tons of money and awards because that's how this game works. It is so incredibly simplistic that you can actually just make nothing but small and micro games and actually be able to get the funds you need to hire everybody in a given location and advance to the next location without really any fuss whatsoever. And honestly, that got boring after the about 15-minute mark, and I stuck with it for a bit over an hour just to get a better idea of how the game worked. And honestly, I can't see myself going back to this and even trying to finish it. It is an extremely casual game, it is extremely simplistic, it has basically no depth to it whatsoever, and ultimately, on that basis, I can't recommend it. The counter-argument tends to be that it's a casual game that was released for a very low price, but let's face it, you can just play the Flash version for free online. Sure, you get a bit less content and a bit less polish, but that's really the only major difference between Corp DX and the actual Flash version of the game. And ultimately, that's not enough to win me over. Your mileage may vary. I will provide a link in the video description box to where you can pick this thing up if you're interested, but again, I really can't recommend it. It just doesn't have the kind of depth that a business management game really needs in order to actually be compelling. And honestly, the only thing that prevents it from being an outright awful game is the fact that they're only asking for $3 for it. And ultimately, you're going to have to just ask yourself whether or not you think that $3 is justifiable for what is basically just a slightly expanded Flash game. Thanks for watching.